standardized testing to actually learning something in the classroom?
First of all, I won't leave the money behind for No Child Left Behind, because it is typical of the federal government to tell local and state governments what to do without giving them the resources to do it. That is a problem. But you identify the most important issue with the biggest problem with No Child Left Behind, and that is that the way it was structured did not provide the appropriate way to assess whether a school is doing a good job or not. Now, I believe in high standards. I've said repeatedly that we have to have high standards for our young people, because they're going to be competing in China and India, and this notion that somehow our kids can rank 15th or 20th in math and science and still maintain our standard of living, that's just not the case. These young people in these other countries, they are hungry. They are working hard. They are hitting the books. And so we've got to have high standards, but I don't want those high standards to be measured just by a single high-stakes standardized test. The reason is not that I'm opposed to, kids taking a test once in a while. We all have to take tests. I've been undergoing a test here for the last 13 months. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong for putting a little pressure on kids and saying, you got to hit the books and then let's see what you know. The problem, the way No Child Left Behind works, you take a standardized test. It's sort of, I guess, a third of the way into the school year. So it's not testing at the beginning of the school year and then seeing what progress you're making during the year. It's not giving good information to teachers that help them improve instruction. It is this test randomly situated in the middle of the year, interrupting the flow of the school year. So teachers are spending, in the first 2, 3, 4 months of school, they're spending most of their time teaching kids how to take a test, instead of teaching them how to read and write and do math. It makes the curriculum uninspiring for the teachers and for the students. And what we also know is that because the subject matter that's being tested is just math and reading, it means that school districts are starting to say, well, we can't afford art, we can't afford music, we can't afford PE, we can't afford science, we can't afford civics, we can't afford history. And if studies show that music actually enhance your aptitude for math, or if studies show that kids getting exercise actually makes them improve their performance in the classroom, then that doesn't make sense. So what I want to do is I want to change how we assess and use tests. What I want to do is to say, first of all, if you're going to apply a test, do it at the beginning of the year and then do it at the end of the year to track progress so that teachers can actually use the information for instructional purposes. Number two, don't punish schools because they are getting kids who are already 2 grades behind, and if they get those kids up to just 1 year behind by the end of the school year, they're doing a good job. Don't penalize those schools. Give them the resources they need to do a better job. And finally, mix not just testing, but other ways of measuring excellence in the schools. Use peer review so that teachers are being evaluated by master teachers to see, how are they doing with curriculum? How are they doing with discipline? What's attendance like? Are the students, engaged in the classroom? There are all kinds of ways to assess progress in addition to these standardized tests, and do fewer of them. Don't have a state test, a city test, a federal test. Choose one test, do it properly. You don't have to do it every grade. And then I think we'll be able to have high standards and high quality of teaching. One last point I want to make about education, though, and I've already hinted at this. It's very important, and I will talk about it as president. Improving our education system is not just a matter of more money. It is also a matter of changing attitudes. Parents are going to have to parent. You know, parents are going to have to parent. You've got to turn off the TV set, put away the video game, meet with the teacher, make sure the kid's doing homework. And students have to, be instilled with a sense of excellence in education, and that's true especially in the African American community and Latino community. We've got to do a better job of saying to our kids, you've got to work harder in school. You've got to work harder in school. And teachers, you've got to raise expectations for your students. Don't just say, well, it's those kids, they can't learn. We've got to have higher expectations all across the board for each other and for our children if we're going to be able to compete. Okay, I've got time for a couple more questions.